Diet is the most important thing, right?
Yeah, according to the Global Burden of Disease Study, the largest, most systemic analysis of risk factors in human history, diet, that is the #1 killer of humanity worldwide and the #1 killer here in the United States. Cigarettes only kill about 500,000 Americans every year. Where's our diet?
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode. All right, guys, very excited today. We're talking longevity. This man might be able to add a few years to your life. Dr. Michael Greger in the building. How's it going?
Happy to be here.
You said you're going to almost every state in the country for this tour, right?
Oh, I wish. Normally I do 200 cities, but it's brutal.
Damn.
Brutal. So yeah, no. So I'm only doing 100 cities, 5 months.
Only 100.
Yeah, only 100. Yeah, through June. Yeah, looking forward to coming to a town near you.
Nice. And that's for the book tour, right?
Yeah, it's for the new book tour. How Not to Age came out in December. Premiered #2 New York Times bestseller list.
Wow.
I was kind of bummed, but next time #1.
#2 is impressive, man. Who beat you out?
Good question.
Was it a health book?
I don't remember.
Just focus on yourself.
No, habits. Something about habits.
Oh, Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits. Been on the list for like 200 weeks or something.
That's an old one.
I was not able to bump it up.
Well, maybe with this podcast tour, we'll get you
All right,
there.
let's do it.
So you did a bunch of research for that book, right? Over 13,000 citations.
13,000 citations. Took me over 3 years. I got a team of 22, so it's not just me. Yeah. We got a lot of people. I mean, we're just going through tens of thousands of papers.
Yeah.
Really wanted to be like the most comprehensive guide in terms of evidence-based methods to extend health and longevity.
Right, and that's why I like how you teach, because it's all evidence-based. It's not hypothetical. It's not opinions. You look at the facts, right?
Yeah, wherever the facts will lead us. I mean, that's really, and I think today, there's just so much nutritional noise and nonsense out there.
Right.
Even like an educated person trying to, answer really basic common sense questions about, it reminds me of my last book, How Not to Diet, talking about weight loss. Like whether you're trying to live, longer or lighter. I mean, you're just bombarded by
especially with social media.
Yeah. And so I just really wanted to, even look as a physician, with years wading neck deep through the medical literature, it was difficult to kind of separate fact from farce. And look, if it took me that long, so the casual observers got no chance whatsoever. But look, the good news is we have tremendous power over our health, destiny, and longevity. The vast majority of premature death and disability is preventable with a healthy enough diet and lifestyle.
And that's exciting, because previously it was thought your genetics played a huge role, right? But you recently found out it's about 25%?
Yeah, based on studies of identical twins, only about 20% of the difference, 25% of the difference in lifespan between individuals is due to genetics. So it's like, wow, well, what can we do over the majority of which we have some control?
Right, and diet is the most important thing, right?
Yeah, according to the Global Burden of Disease Study, the largest, most systemic analysis of risk factors in human history found that diet, that is the #1 killer of humanity worldwide and the #1 killer here in the United States. Cigarettes only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills many more.
And that's not really talked about.
Yeah, no, I know. And there's so much effort, so many resources putting into smoking cessation, but unfortunately, just not hitting #1. What we put at the end of our fork, the most important decision we make for the health and well-being of our families.
And I think there's just so much information, right? For every food, there's a good study and a bad study. So I think people are just kind of confused where to get their information from. So when you were researching particular foods, that must have been a difficult process, right?
Well, you start out by saying, well, who funded these studies, right? I mean, was it the Beef Checkoff Program? Was it the Egg Council? Was it the Watermelon Promotion Board?
Right.
There's money going in, so that helps kind of understand. But look, it still could be a good study. You just got a little grain of salt looking in. And then you really want to look at the best available balance of evidence. One study's never going to show you anything. You really got to look at all the studies put together, these meta-analyses where they compile all the top studies. You really get a sense, and you look at interventional studies, these randomized controlled trials where you put it to the test, not just kind of observational evidence where you track people and their diseases and their diets over time, but you can actually put different foods to the test, randomize people. In fact, you can do double-blind double-blind placebo-controlled trials where you put walnuts in a smoothie or something versus a walnut-flavored smoothie. One person gets walnuts, the other person doesn't. Nobody knows who's getting the walnuts, who's not, until you break the code at the end. You actually see if walnuts actually do anything to you.
Walnuts you speak highly of, right?
Indeed. The only nut shown to acutely improve artery function within hours, also the nut with the highest antioxidant content, the highest omega-3 content. I encourage people to eat a palmful of walnuts every day.
Wow.
The food on a gram-for-gram basis most associated with longevity compared to any other food on the planet.
Dang, I'm going to buy some after this. But the trick is unsalted, right?
Yeah, unsalted.
Okay.
Yeah, ideally raw even would be better. Yeah, so raw unsalted walnuts is the way to go. In fact, sodium is the #1 dietary risk factor for death on planet Earth. The worst thing about humanity's diet is excess sodium content. About 70% of the sodium we get is actually from processed foods. It's not the salt that we add at the table or the dining room. It's these packaged foods that's used as a flavor enhancer.
Yeah, I actually cut frozen foods and packaged foods pretty much completely years ago, and I felt amazing.
Fantastic. Well, one of those factors may be salt. People think, well, my blood pressure's fine, don't have to worry about salt. No, but salt is pro-inflammatory. You can randomize asthmatics to a low-salt diet, get significantly decrease in asthma attacks because low-salt diets are anti-inflammatory, have all sorts. And that's why dietary sodium is such a primary risk factor as a leading killer, because it affects so many different organ systems, not only our blood pressure and our artery function, but our kidneys, our eyes, etc., down the list. So yeah, cutting down on sodium intake, which is really cutting down on that ultra-processed crap, that processed junk food, primary way to decrease our salt. We really want to hit a 1,500 milligram limit, which is what the American Heart Association recommends.
I love that. Which grocery store do you personally shop at for the highest quality ingredients?
Well, typically on the road, I'm looking for a Whole Foods. Okay. I just came from California. There's all sorts of kind of indie stores offering the same kind of stuff, but they have a nice hot bar, a nice salad bar. You can kind of pick and choose your ingredients. You walk into a restaurant, you don't know what kind of crap they're going to give you.
Right. Yeah, I try not to eat out, but it's tough in Vegas.
I bet.
Because all the seed oils, right? And you don't know what they're putting in there.
There's so much. I mean, right. So you can get Chinese fat, oil, and salt, or you can get Italian fat, oil, and salt, or you can get, on down the list. But, you just can't make a lot of money selling people whole food.
Yeah. When you look at the standard American diet, the food pyramid they recommend to give our kids, does that irritate you at all?
Well, so, the pyramid's kind of a thing of the past back in the 90s. But now we have the plate. Recommending people to include half their plate be vegetables, a quarter fruit, quarter protein, which can be legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, lentils. Actually encouraging people to drink water. So there's certainly things that are improving. And looking forward to see what the 2026 to 30 guidelines coming out. I testify every 5 years before the committee, and we'll see. And they tend to get better every year. In other words, more evidence-based, less influence from big business.
Oh, that's good. Nice. Now, you landed on the vegetarian diet as your main diet. When did you make that switch?
Well, so really, plant-based diets in general. So primarily plants, not necessarily exclusively plants. But it really actually all goes back to my grandma. I was just a kid when my grandma was sent home in a wheelchair to die, basically. She had end-stage heart disease. She had so many bypass surgeries, you basically run out of plumbing at some point, confined in a wheelchair, crushing chest pain. Her life was over at age 65. Then she heard about this guy, Nathan Pritikin, one of our early lifestyle medicine pioneers. And what happened next is actually detailed in Pritikin's biography. He talks about Frances Greger, my grandmother. They wheeled her in, and she walked out.
Wow.
Though she was given a medical death sentence at age 65, thanks to a healthy diet, was able to enjoy another 31 years on this planet until age 96, to continue to enjoy her 6 grandkids, including me. That's why I went into medicine. That's why I practice lifestyle medicine, why I started the website nutritionfacts.org, why I wrote the book How Not to Die, why all the proceeds from all my books are all donated directly to charity. I just want to do for everyone's family what Pritikin did for my family.
That's beautiful, man, because you could be making millions off these books, but you're donating it.
Yeah, well, I have sold millions of books, but there's so much commercial corruption, particularly not only in medicine, but in food in particular. It is one of the most profitable industries, $1 trillion industry, processed food, with so much money in the mix. It's difficult to separate fact from fiction. And so I want to completely step back from all that and be like, I am just, laying down what the evidence says because I care. about you and your family enjoying the longest, healthiest life.
Yeah. It seems like with food, especially in grocery stores, there's more bad than good. You know what I mean?
My God. No, in fact, something like the produce aisle, that's actually a loss leader. Most grocery stores actually lose money on produce. Look,
Really?
once it goes bad, it's perishable, right? Rots on the shelf. It's the worst thing to sell, right? You want a snack cake that sits on the shelf for a few weeks. That's how you make money. You sell people brown sugar water in a bottle. That's how you make money. And so they're getting you in the store to buy that to buy an apple or something, but then at the checkout aisle, they're just slamming you at all sides with, ads for fast food and junk food and on down the list. That's how they're making their money. And so look, the incentives are all just, perversely laid out. The least healthy food is the most profitable food. It's not like the head of, some soda companies rubbing their sticky hands together thinking, how can I contribute to the childhood obesity epidemic?
Right.
They're thinking, how do I maximize the earnings from our shareholders in the next quarter? And should that CEO get a conscience for 2 seconds, they'll get booted out and replaced by somebody else who will maximize shareholder earnings for the next quarter, right? I mean, and how do you maximize? You sell people sugar water. You sell people, it's dirt cheap ingredients. It's all profit. Taxpayer subsidized sugar, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, the healthiest food, it's not even branded. You are not going to see an ad on the Super Bowl for sweet potatoes because even a sweet potato grower is not going to put an ad. You'll just buy their competitor's sweet potato. It's not branded. It's not patentable. It's just like, it's the worst thing to make money of. The only people that profit are the people that actually eat these foods. So we need to kind of take control of our own health, of our own family's health. We can't wait till society catches up to the science. These companies don't necessarily have our best interests at hand, so we really have to take personal responsibility because it's a matter of life and death.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense from a business point of view, but there is this debate that eating healthy is expensive.
Well, if you think of the cheapest food, I mean, the healthiest foods are some of the cheapest foods, like, dried beans, apples, cabbage. I mean, come on. I mean, this is, like $1 per pound of food.
Right.
The only way you get is on a per calorie basis, like if you're starving to death. Yes, having a pound of sugar, you get more calories, or drinking a quart of oil or something. Yes, and if you only had a few dollars, you're trying to live on a desert island, not starve to death. But really, it's only people that buy these fancy, healthy junk food where you're really paying a premium. But really the basic foods for which there's no advertising budget, these are some of the healthiest foods and the best for our budget.
Yeah, I think we just have to shift the narrative, the programming, because I have friends that are on minimum wage, making low income, and they all eat fast food. They think they can't afford eating healthy, but they're not. They don't have the right information, I think.
Yeah. No. So, you buy a sweet potato, nuke it in the microwave for a few minutes, and people also have this sense that it's not convenient. Like fast food, that's convenient, right? Convenience food, junk food, that's convenient. What could be more convenient? An apple. It's already prepackaged.
Yeah.
You can eat the package, right? I mean, it's literally no prep necessary, right? I mean, there's just no excuse not to eat healthy other than we've just been bombarded by these bad messages our whole lives, and it can be cheap, convenient, delicious, and it's you can love food that loves you back.
Oh man, a fresh apple. I grew up in Jersey with apple trees. I would
There
go
you go.
apple tree picking.
Oh
so
man,
good.
what's your favorite kind?
The honey one, I think it's called.
Honeycrisp.
Yeah, Honeycrisp.
Honeycrisp is
man.
good.
So
Have you
good.
ever had a sweet tango apple?
No.
Oh, dude.
I'll try it.
No, that's my favorite. No, it's hard to find. But if you can get some, that's the one to go, man.
check it out, man.
I can't go back.
Now, when it comes to apples, fruits, vegetables, there's also a debate about organic versus non-organic with the pesticides. Where do you stand on that debate?
Yeah, so in How Not to Die, I talk about this modeling study that suggested if half of Americans eat a single more serving of fruits or vegetables, we would prevent every year 20,000 cases of cancer. That's how powerful produce is.
Wow.
But because they're talking about conventional produce, pesticide-laden produce, the additional pesticide burden on the American public would cause 10 cases of cancer. So overall, we would just prevent 19,990 cases of cancer, right? So that gives you a sense of the tremendous benefit of eating fruits and vegetables versus the tiny bump in risk. Now you say, wait a second. Why accept any risk at all? Why not get all benefits, no risk by choosing organic? Great. But we should never let concern over pesticides prevent us from stuffing our face with as many fruits and vegetables as possible.
Yeah, that must have been a scare tactic then.
I mean, look, no, it's a legitimate, there's a legitimate concern, but the benefits far outweigh the risks.
Got it. Now, when it comes to plant-based diets and longevity, is it true people on that diet live longer than people that eat meat.
Yeah, in fact, you look at the blue zones, right? So these are areas of exceptional longevity around the world, have up to 10 times the rate of centenarians, those that live, triple digits, over 100 years old. They all center their diets around whole plant foods. The primary protein source is some kind of legume, bean, split pea, chickpea, lentil. So they're centering their diets. They're decreasing their intake of, meat, dairy, eggs, sugar, salt, maximize their intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, legumes, mushrooms, basically real food that grows out of the ground. These are our healthiest choices. That's what all of the blue zones, these longest, healthiest populations, center their diets around. And you can do, interventional trials where you randomize people to eat a diet centered around plant foods. There's one randomized hundreds versus exercise versus neither, and found that sadly, though exercise alone did not slow the rate of aging, those randomized to the plant-based dietary intervention group had a significant slowing of biological aging. So no wonder there's lower rates of age-related diseases among those who eat plant-based. So up to 3 times less likely to become demented later in life, lower rates of heart disease, cancer, diabetes. In fact, the only diet ever proven to reverse the course of our number one killer, heart disease, number one killer of men and women, is a plant-based diet, shown first by Dr. Dean Ornish in 1990, published in The Lancet in the summer, showing for the first time that we could open up arteries without drugs, without surgery, just a plant-based diet and lifestyle program. I mean, if that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the number one killer of men and women. Shouldn't that kind of be the default diet until proven otherwise?
Yeah.
And the fact that it can also be so effective at preventing, arresting, reversing other leading killers like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply really overwhelming at this point.
I love that. I actually want to go to a blue zone. There's one in Cali, right?
In fact, the only remaining blue zone to this day, most blue zones are actually historical. There's only one left, and it's the red, white, and blue zone. That is in Loma Linda, California, the Seventh-day Adventists, who eat these plant-based diets and also have other healthy lifestyle behaviors, not smoking, tend to have regular exercise, social connections. There's a whole long list of lifestyle factors, but their plant-based diet appears to be the principal component for their longevity.
Wow, I thought there was 5 left. There's only 1 now?
There were 5. But these are historical. So so the longest lived population in human history, formerly studied, are these Seventh-day Adventist vegetarian in Loma Linda, California. Second longest living population were Okinawa Japanese, but that was in the 1950s. Now Okinawa, Japan, is the most obese area of Japan. They have the most KFCs. I mean, there's been a real push for the Okinawans to eat the Okinawan diet too. They used to get 70% of their calories from sweet potatoes. They ate a vegetable-based diet. And now, of course, they're eating the kind of westernized fast food that the rest of the world eats. We are exporting this diet around the world and, impinging on public health everywhere.
Got it. Now, you mentioned cancer earlier, which is on the rise, right? I was talking to a dog health expert, actually. He's saying 1 in 2 dogs will have cancer in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
Hey, look, 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women are going to get cancer sometime in their life. And so critically important to prevent cancer. And people don't realize there's a latency period of cancer. Most of these so-called epithelial cancers, like the common cancers, breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, these cancers can take decades to develop. Right? The latency period for colorectal cancer is like 50 years, meaning the first mutation that started that cancer 50 years before you're diagnosed. So it's what you're eating like your teenage years, right? So really, much of cancer, quote-unquote, prevention, you're actually just slowing down the rate of the cancer that you don't know you have. When you do autopsy studies of accident victims, you find that a remarkably high percentage of people have cancers, hidden cancers, tiny cancers growing inside them. So really, the strategy is to slow them down. You want to die with your cancer, not from your cancer.
Interesting. So it's already in a lot of people's bodies, and they have no idea.
Yeah, no. Essentially, everybody gets cancer. We have this remarkable immune system that's able to target budding cancer tumors. So there's this constant battle to repair DNA damage, prevent cancer tumor formation, and to slow down the growth and slow down the spread of cancers.
Right.
And so we can facilitate that, or we can, go against it. We can, smoke cigarettes, right, and undercut our body's natural ability to slow down the rate of cancer and die from the number one cancer killer, lung cancer, which is just a horrible
Sounds painful.
disease to drown in.
Yeah, I know someone. Yeah, it was rough, man. And it seems like with diet, actually, some people have been able to treat some of their cancer just from eating the right things.
Indeed. So Dr. Dean Ornish, after conquering killer number 2, heart disease, moved on to killer number 2, cancer, and was the first to show you can actually reverse the course of early-stage prostate cancer with the same kind of plant-based diet and lifestyle that reversed reversed heart disease, and now he's working on Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
He's just finished. In fact, the study's finished. He's just writing it up. I was hoping it was published by now, but he claims to see remarkable results. We won't know until it's actually published in peer-reviewed medical literature. But oh my God, the thought that we can actually reverse the course of early-stage Alzheimer's, that's really
massive.
exciting stuff.
I have the gene. I took the 23andMe.
Oh, so ApoE4?
Yeah. I have
okay.
one mutation.
But genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So, for example, there's something called the Nigerian paradox, where they have among the highest rates of the Alzheimer's gene, but among the lowest rates of Alzheimer's disease. How is that possible? Well, what is ApoE? What does this gene code for? It codes for the primary cholesterol carrier inside the brain. So if we bring our cholesterol levels low enough, we can actually undercut it. So diet trumps genetics. And it's because they eat these, the Nigerians eat these diets low in animal fat, they have low LDL cholesterol. And so we can, regardless of what kind of, genetic cards we've been dealt, we can reshuffle the deck with diet. Those with a blood cholesterol of 225 or more have nearly 25 times the odds of ending up with amyloid plaques in the brains 10 to 15 years later. What's good for our hearts is good for our heads, because the clogging of our brain arteries, our cerebral arteries with atherosclerotic plaque, is involved in the development of Alzheimer's disease. It closes off blood flow to these critical memory centers in the brain. And so that's good news, right? So although Alzheimer's may be incurable, at least it is preventable. We really do have the power of whether or not we're going to become demented or not.
That's cool. So I got to keep taking those omega-3s.
So omega-3 fatty acids is critically important for cognitive function, particularly later in life. Yeah.
What other supplements? You've probably studied thousands of them at this point. Is there any that really stood out to you?
Well, so certainly, there's individual circumstances. If you're alcoholic or you're, pregnant, or there's But in terms of kind of general population, typically we're not getting enough vitamin D. Vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin. People getting inadequate sun exposure should consider supplementing their diet with 2,000 international units of vitamin D3 every day. We just weren't meant to wear clothes. We weren't meant to be inside. We weren't meant to be at these crazy latitudes during the winter. We evolved running around naked in equatorial Africa, and so we're just baked in the sun all day. And now, regardless of where you live, if you got a desk job inside or something, you're probably not getting enough vitamin D. You can get tested, or just go for that supplementation regimen. Another critical important vitamin B12 at age 50, according to the National Academies of Sciences. This is the most prestigious medical institution in the United States. Recommends every single person age 50 starting taking vitamin B12, either supplement or vitamin B12 fortified foods, because our ability to absorb B12 declines with age. Those eating healthy diets, plant-based diets, really should start taking B12 throughout their lifespan. Since this is a vitamin that is not made by plants, not made by animals either, made by little microbes that blanket the earth. So we used to get B12 drinking out of a mountain stream or well water or something, but now we chlorinate the water supply to kill off any bacteria. So we don't get a lot of B12 anymore. Don't get a lot of cholera either. It's a good thing that we live in a nice sanitary world, but our fellow great apes get all the B12 they need eating bugs, dirt, and feces. I prefer supplements. So again, 2,000 micrograms once a week, all the B12 you need, though, starting at age 65. Really should bump it up to 1,000 micrograms once a day. Cyanocobalamin is the most shelf-stable form. That's the one I recommend.
Got it. Nice. Pretty simple. Not as long as Brian Johnson's list.
That's amazing. I don't know where. I mean, look, it's great that he's experimenting and stuff, but yeah, we just don't have good data to support. There's other things I talk about.
Are you interested in coming on the Digital Social Hour podcast as a guest? Well, click the application link below in the description of this video. We are always looking for cool stories, cool entrepreneurs to talk to about business and life. Click the application link below, and here's the episode, guys.
The usefulness of creatine, supplementation for building muscle mass, along with resistance training, particularly for older men and women. And there's all sorts of, kind of different foods out there. So something like, people treat things like, powdered ginger or turmeric and things as if they're supplements, but they're really just whole foods, just kind of powdered supplements you can take it in pill or not.
Yeah, I take turmeric for inflammation.
Ah, fantastic. How much you take every day?
Just a pill. I don't know how much is in each.
Oh, yeah.
but-
So I encourage people to take a quarter teaspoon a day. That's actually part of my daily dozen checklist of all the
nice.
healthiest of healthy foods. I encourage people to fit in their daily routine. Available as a free app. iPhone, Android, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. So quarter teaspoon turmeric, tablespoon of ground flax seeds, dark green leafy vegetables every day, the healthiest kind of vegetables, berries every day, the healthiest kind of fruits, kind of on down the list of best beverage, best sweeteners, how much exercise to get, etc.
Love that.
Yeah. Encourage people to, and again, just kind of aspirational, trying to, just encourage people to just think about it and try to get some healthy foods. Hopefully we'll crowd out some of the less healthy options.
Now, I heard you talk really highly about green tea, right?
Oh, now you're talking my language.
I have one kickback.
Okay.
So, have you seen that study on the microplastics in some of the tea bags?
Oh yeah.
What did you think of that?
Well, you don't use tea bags, right?
So, how do you drink yours?
So you can get bulk tea, right?
Okay.
And you can make it your, or you can take tea leaves, throw it in your smoothie. You don't actually have to drink tea. You don't actually have to brew tea. In fact, you can actually get more nutrition, right? I mean, so the way we make tea, we take dark green leafy vegetables, these green tea leaves, put them in water, then throw them away, right? It's like taking collard greens, right? Boiling some collard greens, and then throwing the collard greens away and just drinking the water. Now, some of the nutrition does leach into the water. It turns green. You can smell a little bit. And indeed, there's nutrients that leach out of the tea leaves and get into the water. But hey, why not get it all by, for example, drinking matcha tea, which is powdered green tea leaves. It's actually a whole food. Now, the concern, though, is lead contamination. So in China, unfortunately, only recently got rid of leaded gasoline. And so depending on how far the tea plantations are away from the highway, they have high levels of lead in their soil. Thankfully, the lead does not leach out of the tea. So you take tea from China, put it in water, hot water, throw away the tea bag, drink the tea. It's fine. But if you're actually drinking matcha tea, actually eating the tea leaves or throwing leaves into your smoothie, I encourage people to get Japan-sourced tea because they just don't have the lead contamination problems. Yeah.
I'm a coffee guy, but I might have to make the switch to matcha.
Oh, well, no, both.
Okay.
Both. So drinking coffee, 3 cups of coffee a day, associated with 13% lower risk of all-cause mortality because of chlorogenic acid. The primary antioxidant in coffee is an autophagy activator, this house cleaning process inside the body that is boosted by fasting, boosted by exercise, and drinking coffee every day. Decaf is fine. Instant coffee is fine. You actually get more from brewed than espresso because of the greater contact time. I encourage people to drink filtered coffee because the paper filter traps some of the cholesterol-raising compounds in coffee. So people drinking filtered coffee live even longer than those drinking unfiltered coffee, but they both live longer than those not drinking coffee at all.
Wow.
13% lower risk of dying prematurely, 3 cups of coffee a day. Now, tea, drink 3 cups of tea every day, 24% lower risk of dying. So green tea, so you say, well, green tea is better, right? Every cup of coffee is a lost opportunity to drink green tea, but they work through entirely different mechanisms. So we would expect it to be an additive effect. So green tea has nothing to do with autophagy. What it does is actually boosts our DNA repair enzymes, and so increases longevity through an entirely different mechanism. So I start out the day, 3 cups of coffee, then move over to tea. 3 cups then you go from black tea to green tea, then move to herbal tea after about 4 p.m. when you don't want the caffeine to interfere with your sleep.
Right. What you mentioned fasting. When it comes to fasting, do you recommend people look into that, do it maybe on a weekly or yearly basis or something?
Oh, well, so in my last book, How Not to Diet, talking about weight loss, actually the largest chapter was on this intermittent fasting. There's so many different types. There's alternate day fasting, 5-2 fasting, 25-5 fasting, mimicking diets, time-restricted feeding. Bottom line, I talk about the benefits, the pros and cons of each of them for anyone who wants to do a deep dive. But really the bottom line is early time-restricted feeding is the healthiest, thanks to our circadian rhythms, thanks to the chronobiology. We try to restrict our daily feeding window to 12 hours or less, but critically important, it's earlier rather than later. If we skip any meal, we're skipping supper, not breakfast. We should try to shove as many calories earlier in the day as possible. Ideally, breakfast or lunch would actually be the biggest meal of the day. The exact same food eaten in the morning.
Wow.
Creates less body fat, is less fattening than the exact same food, exact same number of calories eaten later in the day, cause less of a blood sugar spike, less triglycerides. So if you're going to eat something crappy, eat it in the morning. Your body's better able to handle it. And that actually may be one of the reasons why those California Adventists live so long, is because they tend to make kind of lunch the biggest meal of the day, and that helps regardless kind of what you eat.
Interesting. So I need to adapt because dinner's my biggest meal. I usually skip breakfast, and lunch is
everybody
light.
does. I know. It's the exact opposite of what you should be doing. And so if you just switch, if you ate the exact same foods and just switched over, and you did labs before and after, you'd be surprised. It's
Really?
No, seriously. Same foods, just different time of day. It's crazy.
I've been looking into the circadian rhythm. I try to get sunlight in the morning. I try to ground in the morning.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, we want that full sun in the morning. I mean, the chronobiology literature is just fascinating. In fact, there's this epidemic of pesticide in subcontinent of India, but whether or not they're successful killing themselves depends when they're overdosing the pesticides. If they're doing it in the morning, they tend not to die. If they do it in the evening, they do die because of our chronobiology. Same amount of poison, eaten at a different time of day, our body's better able to detoxify in the morning.
Wow.
I mean, it's just really remarkable. We tend to only think about circadian rhythms when like jet lag, right? That's the only time we're thinking about our circadian rhythms. But no, it's super powerful. Most of our biological systems are on this, quasi 24-hour clock, and so we ignore it at our peril.
Yeah, our bodies are so unique and powerful.
So
it's crazy.
Fucking cool.
The more I look into it, it's insane.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. All right, so dark chocolate and heavy metals, that seems to be a debate lately. I used to eat it all the time thinking it was healthy. Now there's new studies saying there's heavy metals in them. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so two recent analyses, one by Consumers Union, the publisher of Consumer Reports, a nonprofit organization, also Consumers Lab, which is kind of a for-profit third-party testing company. Both looked at not only chocolates, but various kinds of cocoa powders and found high levels of heavy metals like cadmium in certain products, but not others. And so if you're just eating chocolate once in a while, like most people do, chocolate cake on a birthday or something, then it doesn't matter. Right, but if you are eating cocoa like I recommend people eat cocoa, a tablespoon a day, recommend my last book because it improves muscle mass, muscle performance, all for tests of physical performance, improves blood flow to the skin 70% within 2 hours, can reduce wrinkles, all sorts of amazing things. Just eating natural cocoa powder, making your life a little more chocolatey. But if you're actually doing that much cocoa, then you really want to choose low metal cocoa. And so, you can go online, look at those surveys, see if your favorite cocoa powders or favorite chocolates, where they are on the list. The lowest just came out to be Target brand generic cocoa. Yeah, just like the
Target?
Regular. Yeah. No, so that's the one I get. Although I just came back from Europe, and I was like, so get the Target brand. They're like, what?
They don't have Target over there.
So, but they test cocos from around the world, so you just find one that's you can get locally.
Wow, I got to look into that because I used to love dark chocolate, but that study definitely scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
When it comes to herbs and spices, is there any you recommend to put on your food?
Oh, huge, long list. And so herbs and spices on a gram for gram basis have more antioxidants than any other food on the planet, even berries, right? And part of it because they're dehydrated, they tend to be dehydrated, so they're really concentrated nutrition. But I mean, there's absolutely remarkable literature there. So for example, osteoarthritis, which is the primary cause of physical disability among older men and women, less than a half teaspoon of ground ginger every day significantly decreases joint pain. I mean, so literally it'd be pennies a day to get significant benefits. And the reason we don't hear about these things is because there's just no profit to be made. I mean, there's just no money to be made with these kind of natural approaches. So, less than a teaspoon a day of ground black sesame seeds can decrease systolic blood pressure by 8 points. That alone could cut your risk of stroke by about a quarter and is delicious, right? Black cumin powder within 9 weeks significantly improves memory, cognitive performance. You can get that at kind of a Middle Eastern store. You can buy it online. I recommend people consume something called papali, which is the long pepper. Again, Middle Eastern spice store. Has something called piperlongumine, a purported senolytic compound. We can get rid of these so-called zombie cells throughout our body. This whole concept of cellular senescence was one of the aging pathways. Down the list. So turmeric, we already talked about. Amla, which is dried Indian gooseberry powder. It is the single most antioxidant-packed substance on planet Earth. Highly prized in kind of Ayurvedic medical tradition.
Wow.
So thousands of years before we realized, we actually had the science to kind of back it up. Does all sorts of amazing things, decreases blood sugars and diabetics, and improves cholesterol levels, kind of on down the list. So that's something else that I encourage people to eat in there. And so these are kind of, people think of them as supplements because something like amla is totally nasty. It's astringent, sour, bitter, gross. You can throw it in a smoothie or something really highly flavorful and you won't even taste it. Or you can just take it in a capsule, or you can wrap it up in like little edible film, which is like potato starch.
Yeah.
You kind of dunk it and just...
That's exciting. I haven't heard of a few of those.
Oh my God, so many cool things out there. And it's just whole food, right? It's just like amla, it's just a fruit that's dried and powdered. Nice. Amazing stuff.
I love that. I was listening to you on a podcast on the way here. You said being overweight super dangerous. So you could lose 30 minutes of lifespan if you're 11 pounds overweight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you can the equivalent of this is considering something called micromorts, which is like kind of 1 in a million chance of dying, or you can kind of cut up your adult life into kind of a million little half hours. And so this is a way to compare the pros and cons of various kind of lifestyle behaviors. It's kind of hard for people to consider something like relative risk or absolute risk or certain percentages of differences. And so, but you can kind of, how is jogging compared to, compared to not smoking, and so using that, you can be like, oh my God, well, drinking this much alcohol is equivalent to, knocking your lifespan down as much as being 11 pounds overweight, or, eating a burger, for example, cuts one's life as short as smoking 2 cigarettes, right? So if it wouldn't even occur to us to light up before and after lunch, maybe we should choose the bean burrito instead. Same thing with eggs. 1 egg associated with a lifespan contraction as much as smoking 2 cigarettes a day.
What? Eating an egg?
Yeah, eating a single egg. And people don't just eat 1 egg, right? They're eating they're eating a couple eggs. In fact, so the NIH-AARP study, the largest prospective study on diet and health in human history, found that though just swapping 3% of egg protein for plant protein associated with more than 20% lower risk of all-cause mortality, right? And just swapping 3%. Right? And so, again, that's how people say it's not black and white, it's not all or nothing. Even any movement we can make towards increasing our intake of healthy foods, decreasing our intake of some of these less healthy foods, can have major impacts on our health and longevity.
Yeah. And now when it comes to protein, there's this advice, especially in the bodybuilding community, 1 gram per weight per body pound, right? And that's too much, according to what you've studied.
Yeah, no. So, National Academies of Medicine, again, most prestigious medical bodies, World Health Organization, European Food Safety Authority, all world's authorities are targeting 0.8 grams per healthy kilogram body weight. So that's per kilogram. So that's like 0.36 grams per pound.
Wow.
So that's like 45 grams a day for the average height woman, 55 a day for the average height man. Now, at age 65, we may want to bump that up to 1.0, but that's still like 0.45. So it's less than a half a gram per pound of ideal body weight in terms of protein. You're like, well, what's the problem with taking too much? Well, there is. The entire aging literature is centered around protein restriction down to recommended levels. That's how you boost the pro-longevity hormone FGF21. That's how you reduce the pro-aging hormone IGF-1, how you suppress the motor of aging enzyme mTOR, all through dietary protein restriction, bringing our levels of protein down to recommended levels, which is this 0.8 gram per healthy kilogram of body weight. Now, most of that is due to particularly problematic amino acids like methionine. And so you can even keep your protein intake the same, but just switch sources, going from animal-based sources like meat to plant-based sources like beans. You can get that drop of methionine, which will have these pro-longevity benefits, even if you keep your protein intake the same.
Right. And I've seen certain studies now that certain animal proteins could be actually carcinogens.
Well, it's because they boost the levels of IGF-1. So this insulin growth factor 1 is a pro-aging and cancer-promoting hormone, which is the reason why, for example, men who drink milk are more likely to get prostate cancer, a very consistent effect. And, you can take prostate cancer cells in petri, just drip a little, milk on them, and you can, see the enhancement in growth, something that you don't get drinking almond milk or dripping almond milk or something like that.
Yeah.
So that now at high enough protein intakes, it doesn't matter, animal or plant protein. They both can boost IGF-1, but at kind of recommended levels, it's really just the animal protein that's boosting your liver's production of this cancer-promoting growth hormone. Really want to try to bring that down. And so there's a reason why male powerlifters have like 3 times the rate of premature death. 3 times as likely to die prematurely compared to the general population. Now, some of that could be anabolic steroid use. So it's really difficult to kind of tease that out. But, part of it because they're pounding these protein powders.
Yeah, a lot of them die young. You see it in the news like at least a few times a year. It's crazy.
No, it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. You've done a lot of studies on sleep.
Oh, yeah. Sleep's interesting.
Yeah, I'm very curious what kind of conclusions.
Well, that was actually one of the more surprising parts on longevity. Sleep has, I don't want to minimize the importance of sleep. So there's remarkable studies in terms of like boosting your immune function, particularly this time of the year with lots of respiratory viruses hanging around. You do these remarkable studies where you drip the cold virus, rhinovirus, into people's noses, and those who get less than 5 hours of sleep 3 times more likely to come down with a cold compared to those getting 7 or more hours of sleep a night. And now, everyone was infected, 100% infection. They literally dripped the virus in their nose. But most of the people who were getting enough sleep didn't even sniffle. Nothing. They had their immune system was able to knock the virus down before they even experienced a single symptom.
Dang.
And we are constantly bombarded by viruses all the time. That's what we learned from the AIDS epidemic. We are surrounded by microbes trying to kill us at all times. And the only reason we don't die from PCP pneumonia or all these just crazy pathogens everywhere is because our immune system is fighting the good fight every single day. And we can boost it. We can improve our ability to fight off both cancer and viruses and bacteria and other pathogens by getting enough exercise, regular exercise, and getting enough sleep. So I don't want to minimize the importance of sleep, but for longevity, it's really controversial over whether getting sufficient sleep actually makes any difference in terms of your lifespan. In fact, if you look at the observational data, where you track large numbers of people over time and track how much sleep they're getting and when they die, actually longer sleep, sleeping more than 9 hours, is associated with dying with a shorter lifespan compared to those getting too little sleep, less than 5 hours a night. And now, there's lots of confounding factors. Who sleeps late? People who don't have a job, so maybe socioeconomic factors. Who sleeps late? People who are depressed, or maybe people who are already sick, don't want to get out of bed, whatever. But long sleepers, the data shows long sleepers actually live shorter lives than short sleepers. We don't know if it's cause and effect, but yeah, surprising. So for people who, for whatever reason, whatever life circumstances, they're not getting enough sleep, well, you may be at risk of some of the, getting the sniffles, but you should not be stressed out that you are significantly cutting your life short, because that's not what the data's showing at this point.
Interesting. Wow. That's exciting news for me, because I slept 4 hours a day in high school.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, yeah.
But I definitely would get sick a lot more, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I try to sleep 7 to 8.
Awesome. That is the target. 7 to 8. That's why I recommended the book.
Absolutely.
You nailed it.
All right, apple cider vinegar. Does it actually cause weight loss?
It's crazy. So 2 teaspoons with every meal is what I recommend. It's one of my 21 tweaks in my How Not to Diet book, with 21 things that have been shown, proven in randomized controlled trials to accelerate the loss of body fat, regardless of what you eat all the time. So if you're just like eating donuts all the time, not that I recommend it, but adding vinegar will significantly not only improve blood sugars, but significantly increase accelerate the loss of body fat, particularly visceral body fat, which is the most dangerous body fat. That's the deep belly fat coiled around infiltrating your organs like your liver. So you do these studies where you can randomize people to a vinegar drink with real vinegar, acetic acid, versus a fake vinegar drink with a different kind of acid, like citric acid or something, with no actual vinegar. Tastes exactly the same, though, so you don't know which is which. Even the researchers don't know until you break the code at the end and you find out, oh my God, those that had been drinking the real vinegar actually had significant loss of this internal visceral fat based on CT scans. Very expensive study, but showed this remarkable contraction. They were eating the same number of calories. We're not talking about cutting out meat, cutting out donuts, anything, just the kind of acid in their drink, because they're, in that particular study, it was apple cider vinegar, but it's the acetic acid, which is the kimono vinegar. So even distilled white nasty vinegar used to clean your bathroom would have the same effect, because the acetic acid, which is metabolized in our body, boosting something called AMPK, which is also boosted by exercise and fasting, some other things, and is one of the anti-aging pathways, as well as accelerating the loss of body fat. So yeah, just a caveat, never drink vinegar straight. You can burn your esophagus. Sprinkle it on a salad. You can even just put it in some water, like hot water, drink it like tea or something, put it in tea. Sprinkle it on your food, whatever you want to do. There's some wonderful balsamics now, flavored balsamics. There's chocolate balsamic, savory balsamics,
Get me hungry.
Curry or whatever. And so yeah, I encourage people to incorporate vinegar in their daily diet. It has all these benefits, even if you're not overweight.
Love it. Dr. Greger, it's been fun, man. Can't wait to add some of these to my lifestyle. Where can people find you and find out the book?
They can go to nutritionfacts.org. All my work is available free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly not commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother. Nutritionfacts.org.
Love that. We'll link it below. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, see you tomorrow.